we'll start with that actually. That life is magic.
Yeah,
Now, Parallel, will you tell me where you got your name? Have I pronounced it properly? Parallel Heimat.
that's okay. That sounds right. It's
Can you explain what your name means? I'm recording.
oh yeah. Well, um, it's about the different parts inside of me. There's essentially two parts because I'm mixed race. I'm half Nigerian and half Belgian, and I came up with the name at a time that I was discovering that this was an important part for me because I never gave it much thought before. And then when I started realizing this more, and then I was looking for a new name when I was still being a DJ and a producer, I came up with this idea because a heimat represents your roots, or the emotional connection that you have with the place you grew up. And since I, in a sense, have two, even though I grew up in Belgium, but there's some part of me that has this African side, and this African side inside of me. And so yeah, I was. That's what the Heimat represents, and then the parallel is about the two, these two kinds of energy that I feel inside of me that sometimes are running parallel, sometimes they cross each other, and it's this continuous interaction because between these two sides. And in a more general sense, it's about duality. This I think everybody feels that he has like some kind of dual nature sometimes, and how we are supposed to deal with that. And yeah.
I know Carl Jung said that we're supposed to have two different personalities. So maybe it's part of that, but also one thing that I'm remembering as you're saying this about like the two conflicting, or sometimes working in parallel parts of your being. I know that also Margaret Tsarian, he said that your shadow is racial, and so to really understand yourself, you need to know about where you come from, where your roots are racially. So it's a really important thing then to kind of look into your for you, your Belgian and your Nigerian side, and to find out about the cultures that you that from where you actually come from. In the same way that I've done with my own parents as well. My dad being from Ireland, my mum being from Algeria. It's something that at the very beginning of my shadow work, I started to really look into female ancestry and trying to delve into some of that. And I was really quite surprised at some of the synchronicities with some of the stories and the myths of where she comes from, the town that she comes from, in relation to the artwork that I was producing at that time. So yeah, I'd say definitely look into that, and you might be surprised by what you find. You might find more meaning for yourself about yourself, which is what we're all looking for, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm planning to do so, but I have to admit, up until now, I haven't really, put effort into it to go research it specifically. I have a little bit of knowledge, let's say, about my culture, where I'm coming from, but it's always it's a personal thing also, because it wasn't always that easy. My connection with my father's side and my homeland there. Um, so what didn't really happen up until now, but I feel that one day this will come up, and then I will put the effort into to figure it out, because I also believe that it can be of value, yes,
Yeah,
to figure
absolutely.
this out. And, yeah.
So in terms of your awakening, when did you realize that the world was shit?
All my life. I just couldn't put my finger on it. That was the big thing, because I from a very young age, actually, I realized that I was looking at things differently. But since because there was nobody in my immediate surroundings that was really stimulating me to look at the world in a to see behind the veil of reality, of everyday reality. It took me a very long time to figure it out. And when I did, it was like it was like it's just, it's not that I did it consciously, it just happened to me. because it started all with this documentary about it was called Dirty Wars, about how the American special forces are creating chaos in Afghanistan, uh, secretly, and in order to radicalize people there. And so so this gave me an all new view to the whole the war on terror and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I was so angry about that. And so when I shared this on Facebook, trying to share this emotion with the world, and there was almost no response.
Wow.
Except one friend that shared an interview with Noam Chomsky. And then from then on, I started researching everything about everything about from Noam Chomsky. How the media is still propaganda tool. How you discover how essentially the United States is still an imperial force, and that all the news we hear on television is just some fabricated story to get us in line with this agenda. And then from there on, I started looking into the monetary system. Then after that came Israel, and all this, the conflict with Palestine. Well, the conflict is like the genocide of Palestine is a better word. Yeah, and then by that time I was getting really depressed because it's a natural process, right? You discover all this hidden evil that's behind behind world events and all the lies you've been told all these years, because at the same time you live this life of I was quite unhappy for some time, because I didn't feel part of this world, of this society, and I just saw a lot of people just going about their every day and not asking questions that I was always asking myself. And then so slowly this process came about, and then eventually a year later I had like this I also broke up with my girlfriend back then, and so there was also this added to this catalyst of insights, let's say, and a whole process that was set in motion that started to opening me up to the realities of the world. And then eventually I had a breakdown, and for 3 months I went through the darkest period of my life. And then after those 3 months, I finally crawled back up, found my way back to the light, and slowly began coming back. And eventually the next summer I had a profound insight, let's say, when I discovered Hermeticism and natural law principles, the 7 Hermetic principles that govern the universe, as they say. And this changed everything. From then on, I finally had answers instead of more questions to all my questions. And yeah, things changed for the better. And ever since, I've been, on the road of discovery and feeling a much more balanced and happy person, let's say. Yeah.
Wow. Well, the Hermetic principles didn't give me as many answers. For me, it gave me more questions, because whenever I read them over and over, and then it's like I have a sense. It's almost like symbols. I can understand something like unconsciously or symbolically, but in terms of language, like the language, it doesn't seem to fulfill what they're trying to say. I can't quite understand in terms of our language. I don't even know if I understand in terms of symbol, but there's something of truth within it when you read it. But sometimes I don't always quite sort of grasp. To be fair, I don't.
Well, yeah, maybe I don't know. It has to resonate. It's different for different people. For me, it was like a major epiphany. It's just like everything was like just vibrating, and and like it all came together. It's like it's just like I don't know.
In terms of my imagination, with the idea that everything vibrates, in terms of my imagination, it kind of makes sense. But then when you look around you, and you try and think, okay, so this is vibrating, you you really start looking around, and then it's when in reality it's like I can't. I don't know. I guess it's almost like there's a couple of ways of perceiving, isn't it? It's like what you can see with your eyes, and then what you can perceive in your mind is something quite different.
Well, maybe it also depends on the examples. If you go through the Kybalion, it's maybe a bit hard to understand at first, because it's like, it's this esoteric talk, and then if well, a lot of the times I try to explain these things by everyday examples, so maybe that could work. For example, if you take the principle of mentalism, that everything is a mental construct in the universe. So everything, whatever you want to create, always has to have a mental idea first. And if everything in life also works in the same way, if you want to build a table or something, first you have to think this over, and then you have to make a plan, and then finally you will build it, and then the table will exist. But first you have to have an idea of this table before these things can come into manifestation. For example.
So you wanted to talk to me today about the principles behind magic, and I just want to share something with you, because I'm at the moment I'm doing a lot more Reiki than I have done for quite a long time, and I'm noticing a shift. Now, I started Reiki in 2013, and the Reiki set off my awakening. So the awakening was that for a year I had lots of kind of psychic abilities. I could see auras around people. I could see what felt like a different reality laid on top of this one. I saw really strange things in the sky. I saw things moving in strange ways. I saw 2 airplanes flying parallel, parallel, with a golden orb on top.
Whoa.
Yeah, which is quite fascinating.
Sure, they're planes.
Who knows? I don't know what they were. I don't, I mean, and then at the end of that, it was just over a year that this happened. But at the end of that, for a good few months, I felt like I had something with me. I felt like I had something negative with me. And I felt very scared of it, and I was doing everything that I could to get rid of it. And I for the first time, I sought advice for psychic attack or this kind of thing, and then I placed crystals everywhere. I did the prayers, I did everything anyway. So I managed to turn off whatever happened. It felt like the veil of reality had been lifted for that just over a year, and I wanted to bring it back down again, because it became so intrusive to my senses that I just wondered, have I actually gone fucking crazy now? But luckily, through meditation, through doing, finding advice by setting intentions as they told me to do, I managed to stop whatever it was and kind of go back to some sort of normality. But actually, it wasn't normality, because the year afterwards is when I started the shadow work course, the course in Ireland, and then so started my shadow work journey. So it wasn't like the end of it; it was actually just the beginning. But the reason why I bring it up is because recently I started doing Reiki again. I've done the level 2 now, and so I can give Reiki to people who are not in the same country as me. And what I'm finding is that for many of those people, they can sometimes feel sensation. They can sometimes have epiphanies. They can have visions, and I too as well. So when I'm giving Reiki to someone else, I can have a vision, or I can tune into them, how they're feeling. I can get words. This morning I was making noises for someone, and I realized that had to be something that needed to be released within that person, maybe even within me, I'm not sure. But the idea of magical principles and energy, I just wonder what your take is on, what I'm experiencing through Reiki in terms of magic and energy. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, I don't have any experience on this let's call this physical interactions with energy, like for example with Reiki. I think it's interesting, but I've never had this kind of experience. The way I approach it is more, let's say, in an intellectual way. Um, I am an Aquarius, so I guess I'm very airy. So maybe that's just how I am. And uh, for me, it's always, through through these hermetic principles that gave me an insight in how energy, works on a universal scale. And of course in a macro and a microcosmic way. And and then if once you start understanding these principles, you can start to apply them to, you know how I always call it, it's like create synchronicities for yourself, instead of just being amazed by, whoa, these crazy accidents happen to me. You can start having a look into how these actually came about, and then make sure that you align yourself with the energy that is flowing throughout our universe, and then create the synchronicities for you. And like you say, a lot of it has to do with intentions. Where you place your intention and then keep a focus on it, things will manifest more easily. And yeah.
Yeah,
So
there is most definitely something about manifestation. I'm really careful with this word because it's very new agey, and I tend to kind of stay away from anything that's too new agey. But I mean, I saw this many years ago, but even before I was even interested in any of this information. That when I had a thought, that it would very often materialize, not always exactly how I thought it would do, but and so I would always think, am I perceiving the future before it's happened, or have I thought it into existence? I couldn't kind of work out which it was. And I'm still not really sure, to be honest. I know that there is something very powerful, though, about having an idea of what's going to happen in the future, keeping it in mind, and watching to see how it pans out. And very often it can come.
yeah, because it's all energy, right? It's like, just like Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And I think in the end, we live in an energetic construct, in which all realities of infinite potential, let's say. And we just happen to find ourselves in this material realm where things vibrate at a lower frequency. So it takes more time for this energetic potential to actually manifest around us. But in a sense, it's always there, right? And it's just, if we manage to tap in, let's say, into this energy, and create a focus point of intention, then normally this energy will move in a certain direction, and eventually also manifest in around us in this material world. Yeah.
And so how do you go about doing that? Do you do that through meditation, or do you set clear intentions? Do you work with the full moon?
Yeah, you have to, right? Well, I have to admit, I'm not like a real
Practicing wit.
practicing magician yet, let's say. I experimented here and there a little bit, but it's not that it's really big integral part of my life. It's more a general way of being, because also meditation, I really have to push myself to get into this, take the time, sit still for an hour, and then clear the mind. And so what I generally do is I try to maintain a meditative state throughout my daily life. And because I think that's also, because a lot of people just see meditation just as this easy, quick tool. Like, for example, a lot of the times I think in the new age, it's not saying that everybody is doing this or abusing this technique, but I think it's also important to be able to maintain this meditative state in your everyday life. Every moment matters. Every second of the day, you should be able to find this balance that you otherwise, maybe if you just focus on this 1 hour of meditation every 2 days, it's and don't don't try to take this with you in your everyday life. Maybe there's still an imbalance. I try to keep it balanced all the time.
So you try to stay sort of present and mindful. Is that your approach? Yeah. Yeah, I get very easily distracted, so maybe that's something that I should try and focus on too. It's quite a good one.
Yeah, me too. I understand, you know.
So you want to tell me about your traveling, because you recently had a year out. So what was the idea behind taking this year for yourself?
Well, it started with my with the moment I awoke, let's say, and you know, the initial process was really about becoming independent, and I thought I had to go to South America for that, you know, try to do some workshops and volunteering in permaculture projects, upcycling projects, and so on. And so, you know, and somehow I was drawn to South America and Peru especially.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took me a couple of years to make it happen, but then last year it finally happened. And yeah, it was like this amazing closing part of a whole cycle of self-discovery. That was how it felt, and that's also how I looked at it. And so yeah, I spent a year there, having these crazy fantastic experiences, let's say. And the main goals were mostly for exploring nature, obviously, being in nature by myself. So you know, it's easier to go inside and to explore your shadow, and to work on that. Also trying some meditational techniques, giving myself room to work on some lucid dreaming, maybe astral projection, exploring these kinds of things. Then on the other hand, there was also, of course, the megaliths, the megalithic architecture, and general, and like the history of these cultures in general. And then lastly, of course, the mysticism and the medicinal plants. And I had several experiences, and it was amazing. Yeah, I think it's
So listen, you have to tell me about your astral projection, and like how you did it, and what experiences you had, and are you able to affect reality through your dream state?
Well, I have to say, I'm not an astral traveler yet, so I think it's a very hard, or maybe some people, it's easy for some people, right? But for me, it's very hard work, and I'm still not there. I had some glitches, you know, some little moments that I realized, okay, I'm you know, getting closer to be able to, because there's two different things, you know, lucid dreaming and astral traveling. It's two different things.
Can you explain the difference?
Well, in with lucid dreaming, it's about being aware that you're dreaming, first of all, and then in a later stage, maybe starting to influence your dream, you know, because you're able to you know, to control this astral world, or this astral plane, where you find yourself in whether most of the time you're not, you know, when you're just dreaming, you're not realizing that that's a possibility. So that's lucid dreaming. But astral traveling is just literally leaving your body, or with your energy body that is leaving your body. And so there is an overlap, obviously, because I think you will, I'm not an expert, so that's what I think it will be like. So, but I think at a certain level, these things cross over, and so yeah, that's what I'm exploring right now. And you know, I had some experiences, like for example, that I was dreaming in a dream. So that I woke up out of a dream, realizing after some time that, oh, I'm still in a dream, right? So these kinds of experiences, yeah. But really becoming fully lucid inside in a dream, I haven't experienced yet, and neither astral traveling. There's also some parts of my body that seem to, you know, disconnect from my physical body, but you know, full on leaving my body and flying around, I haven't experienced yet. So
I have experienced that, but only as a child. When I was a child, I have memories of just floating. You can see my hand going up and then just flying out the window. Quite often I would experience that, and I would have to create a feeling within me before I could get to that. That was how I kind of remember it. But I've tried it a few times as an adult, and I haven't been able to do it yet. So, be great if anyone else on the group can tell us how to do it. Although, I mean, I guess what would be the benefits?
Well, generally, one of the main benefits, what is always talked about is that you have a better understanding of life after death, because the astral world, as we call it, is the plane you will go to after you die. That's what's generally accepted in mysticism, let's say. And so if you're able to do this during your life, you will have a better understanding of the world you will go to afterwards. And that's also one of the main reasons why I'm doing this. And also it's just curiosity.
Curiosity killed the
Yeah,
cat,
like it's this. I've never experienced it fully, but I'm totally convinced that there's these different layers of reality, and that these astral realms are just always there, and I want to explore them. I want to know how it is over there.
So do I. Although I haven't really got a good reason why, but I guess I'm just curious about everything. I'm curious about what it is, why we're here, what is this world about, what is the purpose, all those things. So yeah, that's why I probably want to explore. But I want to ask you also about your medicinal plants that you experienced while you were in South America. So would you tell me about those experiences?
Yeah, sure. It's I think it's something that I want to continue now. Now that I've explored it properly in South America, because first of all, it was about ayahuasca. Obviously, it's a popular thing nowadays, but still, I think it can have a lot of value for many people, because it is a very profound. It can be a very profound experience. And I had 6 ayahuasca ceremonies. So, and also I explored the Huachuma, or the San Pedro cactus, and so it's kind of, I was a bit on this, like, let's call it this shamanic path, exploring different medicinal plants, doing ceremonies, and yeah, they can help you with a lot of things. For me, it was um, um, I had how to say that. First of all, I was able to open up even more, to connect more with my heart chakra, let's say, because on an energetic level. And also I had an insight of being humble again, because through this process of discovering and studying so many alternative things, and then also diving into the history, and you get a lot of new views about of the world that maybe some other people don't. And this may lead to some what's the word, hubris. Yeah, hubris. And ayahuasca really made me see, or at least the ceremonies, and then the whole process that I went through, that it's important to realize that even though you might have a lot of knowledge about a lot of things, there's still much to learn from other people and from other experiences. And yeah, that's what it did for me. Yeah.
It sounds brilliant. A friend of mine just recently came back from a ceremony, and he said that one of the main things that he experienced was a profound feeling of love. That's that he'd never experienced before, and actually that was his intention, was that he wanted to experience it, and he experienced it in abundance, so much that he cried for I think it was 20 hours or something afterwards. This is someone who doesn't cry.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty profound.
Yeah, but it's also maybe because it brings up so many things that you're unaware of a lot of times, especially if you're, you know, not into shadow work, let's say, and not really conscious about, you know, your emotions and so on. Ayahuasca can be really like, has the power to bring all of these things up, and then yeah, you're suddenly faced with them, and that can, you know, generate heavy emotions. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing that that we have all of this stuff around us naturally being produced, and we don't have access to it. I wonder what I wouldn't know, but I'm not thinking about like in England what they might have used in England. You know, I guess it was mushrooms or something similar to that. Yeah,
No,
amazing, isn't it?
yeah,
Definitely worth looking into. So what's in the future then for Parallel Heimat?
Well, a lot.
Got a lot to do.
Well, these are yeah, it's you know, I spent 5 years now of only of researching and working on myself, just that, you know, I very consciously also just, you know, disconnecting with a lot of my you know, the old world, let's say, and focusing on myself, doing shadow work, studying all kinds of different topics. And, you know, now I feel that the moment has come that I'm ready to start producing and to start sharing this information. And it turned out that I started writing last year. And
you seem surprised.
yeah. I have. If you had asked me like 2 years ago, you're gonna start writing or writing a book or anything, I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't have thought so. Yeah. And but yeah, and it also started almost accidentally, because I was, you know, I last year I started doing some presentations about you know, the hidden history of humanity, and how this is connected, you know, to more occult matters and secret societies and so on. And yeah, that was like, these were the first steps, let's say, you know, in exploring, you know, how can I, you know, deliver a message with all the information that I have collected over the years. And then I also became more and more vocal on Facebook and social media. Let's say I'm just on Facebook anyway, and then, you know, obviously you're gonna get into conflict because you talk about a lot of controversial topics, and my viewpoints might be controversial for a lot of people that are not aware of a lot of information that I've researched, because it's just mostly
it's not mainstream. Yeah,
it's not mainstream. It's
yeah.
a lot of it is hidden. So I base my opinions are based on information that other people might not have. So every time that I you know, I tried saying something about this, I met a lot of opposition and misunderstanding. So I told myself, yeah, fine, I'm okay. I have to write this down, right? So I can explain it properly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the idea came of, you know, writing an article about it's mostly about socialism and social engineering, and how these things are related, and this gets into, you know, cultural Marxism, political correctness, Frankfurt School, and so on and so on. And you know, this was going to be a little article, but then I realized, okay, if I want to explain this, I have to explain a bit more about other things, so because otherwise it's not going to be clear. So it became a big article, and then the big article became a small book, and now the small book will be a big book. I think it's probably, you know, I'm guessing it will be around 600 pages now. But it's a huge project that I want to, you know, work on the next 2 to 3 years. And in between, there's 2 smaller projects that I'm working on right now. It's a small introductory book about symbolism and some magical principles that lie behind it. And I'm also working on a huge article about climate change.
Right. Okay. Gosh.
Mm-hmm.
So with the symbolism, do you want to talk me through that? So how you're saying how symbols are used to control people, or to at least instill ideas into people. Can you tell me something about that?
Yeah, so symbols are visual representations of energetic principles. Through symbols, you can translate certain energetic aspects of our reality, and then influence people also through these symbols. And a lot of the time, this happens on a subliminal level. So we're not aware of these influences that we're getting throughout the day, and that's also being used um, in advertising, in the commercial world. But also it's one of the ways. That's also how secret societies work. They use symbolism to express certain characteristics of the energetic field of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's I want to it also started out as just a friend of mine. I was always sending him his information about symbolism, and but he never really got into it. So he said, if you want me to understand this, you have to explain it yourself. And so I was a bit hesitant in the beginning, because I knew it was going to be quite some work. But eventually I started it, and then so again, this another project that started out as a small article and now became a little book. And it will have like 3 main chapters in it. One is about the history, because by looking at symbols, you can deduce or figure out some historical lineages or bloodlines, let's say, or affiliations of certain people. Like if you look into coat of arms, for example, and heraldry.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand what these symbols mean, you can see, you can explore a lot about these
Mm-hmm.
royal houses and so on, and then what their connections are even to secret societies and so on. And then of course I go into how these symbols are representations of energetic principles. I give a bit of an explanation of that, and then also in how this, for example, also like magical ideas, like what white magic, black magic, Satanism, what it really is, because it's not what most people think it is. Like most people have an idea of Satanism that's just some kids or some very unhappy people just going in the woods, putting hoods over their heads, and cutting some rabbits or something, in pentagrams.
Okay.
And of course, it is kind of related, but in it's more about Satanism or dark Luciferianism is more about rejecting the laws of nature, and it's a very selfish philosophy, and it's just it's not caring about anybody else and putting yourself always first, regardless of the consequences about people and the world around you. So I explained that a little bit, and then we'll also go into tarot, because tarot is like the main repository of symbols, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And then the archetypes that are connected to it, of course, and then some etymology, because also language is also almost a symbolic way of translating this energy into reality, because words are spells, right?
That sounds like about 4 books. It doesn't sound like one.
Well, that's why it's an introduction. I'm just giving a little overview.
Wow. I mean, you could have 4 volumes within that. I think there's quite a lot of ground there, isn't there?
Yeah, sure. It's just.
It sounds fascinating. It sounds like a brilliant piece, however you form it. I mean, it could be a book this big.
Yes, it's like it's endless. It's endless, I think. Yeah. Look at the work of Carl Jung. He talked so much about it, and he's written so many books about it, and that's just Carl Jung. And so
And I find with my posts, when I mean, because I look at a lot of artwork online anyway, and I try to find the right image to go with whatever quote, whatever image, whatever quote that I'm putting up there. And I find the image is very powerful. It's very powerful to get a message into people, and the message is usually something about, you know, some kind of psychology or some esoteric thing, or something that's going to be life enhancing, or at least that I find life enhancing. But the image has to be right for it as well, and it has to kind of play on the psyche somehow of the person. It just helps that bit. The other thing is, you just give me an idea, as you were talking about symbols as well, for my next shadow prompt, because I remember this one piece of art that I did. I had this dream that and it didn't make any sense, and it still doesn't make any sense, but I saw some people within like a web of triangles, and I got the words "we live in triangles," right? So I had this image of these people kind of at an angle, kind of within these triangles, and so I drew a woman within a triangle. And as I was painting it, I was thinking to myself, with setting my intentions, that I want whoever sees this, I want them to develop in some way. I want them to develop something of their own consciousness in some way. I want them to develop positively anyway. And then actually someone came and saw when I exhibited my artwork, and he said to me, he said what I had already put into that. He said, you know, you can paint, and, you know, and set the intention for the other person to feel something that you want them to feel, or to know, or to perceive something. So that, yeah, I mean, so you've just given me an idea about the next shadow prompt, which will be something along the lines of make a symbol with the intention of whatever it is that they need to do, healing or whatever.
Yeah, it reminds me of sigil magic. It's
It's the same thing, yeah.
yeah, it's essentially the same thing. That's what they do. You put a certain intention, you put it into words, and then you make it into a sigil, and then all this intention and energy is concentrated in this symbol that you created.
Yeah.
And then this will have the energy to, you know, to manifest.
Yeah. See, I always wanted to be a witch. Well, listen, thanks so much for speaking with me today, Parallel.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate all your feedback as well on the group. So thanks very much for being part of it.
You're welcome. Thank you for, you know, putting up the group and doing the work there, because I've had, you know, I directed some of my friends already, and, you know, everybody is really interested, and I think you're doing great work, actually. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, hopefully I'll speak to you another time.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, take care.